So yesterday morning on offthewall.com we published our first ever oral history. It's called Walking on Water, the story of how the GPA won their war with the GAA, and its author is Arthur James O'D, who joins us now. Arthur, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning to you. How's things?
Yeah, good. This ad was something that had ripped its way into your consciousness as a kid. You were like, and that's why you wanted to find out what the hell happened, where it came from, and what stuff 'twas made of.
Yeah, I suppose, like, from my point of view, so I was 13 when it came out, but it was just 2 years after Sligo had beaten Tyrone in Croke Park, had gotten within an All-Ireland semi-final, just lost to that Tyrone team in a replay, and Eamon O'Hara had his All-Star. So this was like just peak GAA fandom time. It was perfect. So for this ad to come out, it was worked in a perfect it was a perfect blend. And it just stuck with me.
Eamon O'Hara's in the ad, obviously, so that helped as well.
Yeah.
One of my favourite bits of detail from the entire 3,500 words is that one of the things that Club Energised did was they activated the campaigns locally. So in Kilkenny, it was a picture of Shefflin. In Cork, it was a picture of the Rock. And there were billboards of Eamon O'Hara in Sligo. But what happened to them?
I'm not sure he knows. Well, I don't know. Given the time, he reckons it's put down to a gust of wind or some of the lads in town. But I don't know. It would have come out in about April, May. So I'm not sure how windy it was. But yeah, it didn't. I don't think it lasted too long, unfortunately. But none of the rest of the lads really remembered any billboards of themselves, funnily enough.
Right. Okay. It didn't survive. Maybe there weren't that many of them in Sligo. Obviously, there's not that many sites that you wouldn't spot it. Apparently, it was quite close to. Was it quite close to his home place or quite close to the ground?
Oh, I'd say it was closer to town. I think he's out from South Sligo.
Right.
I don't think it'd be too close. Yeah, closer to town. But I don't remember that now, to be honest with you. I can't remember seeing it anyway.
What did you discover as you started to dig into this?
I suppose it was kind of informed because I suppose when you're talking to them at different points, you're kind of piecing it together. So I think initially I'd talked to certainly two or three of the players. I think Eamon O'Hara was actually the first. So from their perspective, it kind of begins and ends with the actual ad. So whenever they record it in kind of April 2004, and that's kind of it's encased within that period of time. Then when you talk about Donal O'Neill, obviously from the GPA, it goes the whole way back to the late 90s where he's starting off, where his story starts off. And consequently, when you talk to the lads from the ad agency, it goes in beyond the ad again. So it's it was quite interesting to just start with the players, and it's a narrow enough window of kind of interest that they would have had in it. Because obviously they're not as concerned as I think Stephen McDonald said, like football was still first and foremost. So it's just 3 days of going, bit of crack, bit of money, and then back to business. Whereas I suppose with these other people, it was a wider concern. And I think it was just fascinating to me, I suppose, the personal/professional importance it was to someone like Donal O'Neill with the GPA. And then just, I suppose, the opportunity it was for an ad agency, Cawley Nee they were at the time, to do something quite different, completely different. And an area that they had no previous experience and no real interest in, and then just to nail it like they did, just to harness something that seems so obvious. And you talk about the billboard campaign, it seems so obvious to go, well, Eamon O'Hara, for example, has however tens of thousands or 30,000 in Sligo that he can appeal to, and everyone knows who he is there, so put him there. Don't put Sean O'Halpine there. People might know him, but there's not the same connection. And it makes such sense, but it's just remarkable that no one had ever done it on that scale before.
That's why it's important. That's why, for like Donal O'Neill's story, for example, and what this means for the GPA. So this isn't just a TV ad. People now, here we are sitting at 28th of April 2020 in a global pandemic, are going, what's the big deal? It's a TV ad. Why does this matter? Why does it matter?
I think it matters because you kind of see everything that came after it. Like, it's not too long, I don't know the exact timelines, but it's not too long after that you had the situation with Cork and the players in the county board and the club Energised versus I think there was some issue, wasn't there, in the game? And it was something in Thurles. And the Cork County Board, I think, had their deal with Lucozade, and they wanted the Lucozade bottles on the sideline. And Cork, the hurlers, as a GPA members, had their situation, I suppose, where there would have been a preference towards Club Energised. And I think, actually, when you go through Sports File now, I think it was a game against Waterford in 2004, and it was obviously in the news beforehand because the photographers had picked up bottles side by side of a kind of a dark blue bottle with Club Energised and the sort of lighter blue bottle with Lucozade on it, just sat beside each other beside Donal Cusack in the goal. And so it's obviously that was part of the narrative building up. But I think it's just, was when you consider like at the same time, so like it's a hard thing to kind of quantify, but it's I suppose the fact that what we see then in 2004 was just the first of what's a complete normality now in how GAA players are used to sell products to us.
And why did Club Energised matter for the GPA?
Well, I mean, I think just financially, it put them at a whole different level. And in terms of, none of the lads really want to discuss numbers, but in terms of integrity and their standing as a serious association going forward themselves, it really made the GAA wake up by all accounts, or take heed, certainly. Like, you couldn't really brush them off. Here they are with a deal that certainly would have went into, I think, into the millions, it's safe to say. Certainly when, after the success of Club Energised itself, which was an astounding success. And that just, I think, gave them a firm footing going forward. Now, it's very interesting. I don't think it actually was in there, but so Donal O'Neill, when they made the deal, it was a 5-year deal, I think, initially. And he was saying how late on in that he agreed with Michael McArdle of CNC to turn it into a 10-year deal. So it's like, you may as well double it. There's plenty of little opt-outs along the way where if either party wasn't happy, they could get out of the deal. But nominally, it was going to be a 10-year deal. And he, quite interestingly, obviously, I don't think either man was there by the time that 10-year deal elapsed. But he thought it probably, in hindsight, made the GPA a little bit complacent. That they'd kind of done their big deal, and it didn't necessarily, and this is just his opinion, obviously his point of view, but they didn't necessarily have the same hunger going forward, maybe, or they weren't quite as alert as they had been in the build up to securing what he called like the big one. I suppose that's kind of understandable as well. It's in hindsight, I think that was 2004. I think he was gone by 2007. So it's kind of, it's hard to know, I suppose, if you're not on the inside.
So there's an argument that this is a hinge point for the GPA. And up to this point, they're upstarts, they're angry and they're aggressive, and there's socks down and there's protests. But actually, let them blow themselves out. Where are their offices even at this stage? I think they're probably still above is it above the Cat and Cage, or had they moved somewhere? And all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, this is a big deal that we're going to have to talk to these lads, aren't we?
And I think that seems to be the kind of, I don't know, it's strange in hindsight. I suppose when you're looking back from the GA's point of view at the time, it kind of makes sense that they would feel pretty comfortable that we'll outstay. It doesn't come at us and we'll see what happens. And, because I suppose one has all the money, all the prestige, all everything else. The other one's an upstart. But it's quite interesting when you're talking to the lads who were looking kind of completely objective at the time. So especially the guys from the advertising agency who, in certain respects had no interest in sport whatsoever. But they all recount particularly their dealings with Dessie Farrell as this hugely impressive figure. He's just this kind of guy. He knows exactly what he wants. He knows exactly how to do it. He knows exactly how to get what he wants. And I think that just permeated everybody across, from the director, who never would have met him before, may have never heard of him before, to the managing director of the ad agency, to the creative art director. All these guys had no idea really who he was, but were so struck by what his capabilities and just his confidence and his determination. And I mean, I think Chris Cawley, particularly, who was the MD of Cawley Knee at the time, really couldn't distinguish between what the GPA was and Dessie Farrell. As far as he was concerned, they were one and the same thing. But Farrell was the driving force behind this thing.
The sheer force of his personality wills into existence the players' representative body that now, to this day, has an important role and a seat at the table. So, like the ad, they were probably going to get there anyway. But the ad is a force multiplier for how fast they get there.
I think so. I mean, it's just it's amazing in hindsight. Like, it's 16 years old now, but I don't think you'd have any issue releasing the same premise again now. And it would have the same sort of impact. It's just, I mean, it's funny the way that I think it was Chris Cawley was talking about again about that idea of playing into the Irish mysticism part of it. And it's not. That didn't really strike me kind of at the first time. It was just this cool thing. It's like it looks deadly. Where is that? Where's that huge lake? All these players, you're trying to pick them out. You see, like some things you see, like I think there was like a Down jersey in there, there's a Clare jersey in there, but those guys are just extras.
Right.
I don't know why. But it's just there's so much to pick up on it on first viewing that, and only then when you're kind of right, I'm satisfied with that. I'm satisfied I know who's there. I'm satisfied I know what happens, everything else. But then you start just breaking down into the actual concept of it. And just the fact to think that we'll have these guys walking on water is such a basic thing. There's not really much more. I mean, if you go really deep into it, there's not really. How do you confer sort of a sense of godliness or a sense of this something beyond human? And it's like, well, you could have yourself walking on water or you could fly. There's probably one or the two things that you could probably have them doing to show that they're not human. And like, it's even interesting. I think one of the later ads for Club Energised as well is shot on top of, it seems to be like a series of windmills, like the wind turbines more so. And I suppose that's playing to the other extreme. It's not quite flying, but it's almost there insofar as how'd you get up there? But it's the same type of thing. And it's just playing to that very basic thing, but executing it so well. And in the 60-second one in particular, I mean, it's a beautiful, I mean, I think it was Colin Hart, the creative director, who said about the director that he just has, they hired him in because he makes, he makes shit look cool. And that was why they hired him in. And you can see it. It's like in the 60-second cut of the ad. I think there's one where it's just Shefflin's hurl. I'm not sure if it's him or not. Just kind of skirting along the top of the water. And it's just like, it sets the scene before the actual match kicks off. And it's just amazing. It's so well done. And it's so simple, but it's so effective. It's so lasting. It's just on that basic premise. How will we make them look like legends, like gods, walk on water?
Well, it worked. Arthur, great stuff. It's 3,500 words. It's well worth everybody's time. The ad itself obviously is embedded in the piece, and we'll tweet it out again now. It's all over our social channels. Good work, Arthur. Thanks a million for bringing us that nice little slice of nostalgia and the history behind it as well. Some breaking news this morning. The former Republic of Ireland and Liverpool striker Michael Robinson has passed away at the age of just 61. He was diagnosed with skin cancer in 2018. He obviously won the European Cup, First Division, League Cup with Liverpool in 83, 84. Just 24 Irish caps, but 4 goals between 1980 and 1986. He played with Preston, Queen's Park Rangers and Osasuna in Spain, and then famously went on to become a TV presenter in Spain, hosting, I think, one of the main football TV shows over there. So a brilliant, brilliant career, and very sad news this morning that Michael Robinson has passed away at the age of 61. We'll have more details on that on offtheball.com across today, and of course a proper obituary about the brilliant career that he put together.